Well, for those of you that haven't seen the news, there was a terrorist attack yesterday in London. 8 or 10 people killed, 40 wounded. And listening to the people that were there, first, I'm not making light of it at all. It's terrible, it's shocking, all those things. But the commentary from the kids, loss of life is the shits, you know? But I can't but come away with the reinforcement of everything I said about bubble wrap. By the way, if I see anybody with their phone today, I'm going to take the phone and I'm going to break it over your fucking head and shove the pieces up your ass. And if you think I'm kidding, try me. Does everybody understand what I just said? So back to the terror attack. It's unbelievable that the world has come to this with the attacks. But I'm not surprised. Not in the least. And again, I'm not condoning it. But our reaction to this kind of shit. Remember I gave you the example of what President Jackson did? Well, we should have done that before. And for those of you on YouTube that want to know what President Jackson did to the Muslims, look it up. But to hear the guys and to show everybody has an iPhone, they're all scrambling. You know, the gunshots are 19 blocks away, and they're scrambling like if the guys, you know, shooting them up where they're sitting. And they're calling, you can't get a call through to 999. 999 in Britain is like 911. You can't, you know, all the lines are down because everybody's panicked throughout central London. Feared for themselves, they're not feared for anybody else. It's, you know, the world has dissipated. I mean, now just imagine if this was Cro-Magnon days. You know, they attack the village and everybody gets their fucking spear and goes and starts killing people. And it's awful, you know, and these poor fuckers sitting there. And these guys sounded to me like wannabe terrorists because they had pretend explosive vests on, pretend. Which, means that they didn't explode. There was no detonator or something, I don't know what it was. And they killed people with knives now. They were killing them with knives. Which, you know, a knife is a lethal weapon, but 3 or 4 or 5 people ought to be able to take a fucking knife away from some asshole. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's, you know, it's fucking unbelievable. And I still remember the first knife fight I saw when I was a kid. And this guy named Ralph, he's wrapping his jacket around his forearm. And I'm like, what the fuck's he doing that for? I'm thinking to myself, of course I didn't ask. I didn't want to look stupid just like you. And because he's going to use his arm as a shield, and he had the fucking jacket wrapped around his arm. So he could have his other hand with, I forget what he had, a chain or a fucking pipe, or maybe he had a knife. I don't remember. All I remember is wrapping his arm up. And I said, well, I never saw that before. Now I know, of course. And I knew from that time forward. You know, it's like the famous line in The Godfather, not The Godfather, the movie with Kevin Costner and Sean Connery, when he says it's just like a guinea to bring a fucking gun to a knife to a gunfight, you know, or he says, Untouchables. Yeah, Untouchables, excuse me. And now most kids watching this probably don't know that if you're going to get in a knife fight, you fucking wrap your, you know. Well, now you learn something. You're not implementing QLA, but, you know, this is a refinement of QLA. By the way, I want to thank Evan Carmichael. I looked at his podcast of me last night before I went to bed, and I was on fucking fire. Fucking fire. Not everybody that looked at it liked me, and then he stepped in and on the comments and said, "You have nothing words to the effect," because Evan is apparently a gentleman. He says, "If you have nothing positive to say, don't comment," which I was nice of him to say, but that's these guys have a lot of anonymous comments that because nobody knows allegedly or ostensibly who they are, so they got big mouths in the commentary. But anyway, thank you, Evan, again for the opportunity, and I enjoyed it. But it was good. It was on fire, and I was sitting right here, I guess, and the camera was there. And then I was explaining my rationale for some of the influencers, and he wanted to know, why is Hitler there? Why is this, that? And so I explained that all those people are high performance, every single one of them, notwithstanding there's murderers, all kind of bad people up there, but Hitler was a high performance guy. So was Stalin. So was Mao Zedong. So was Genghis Khan. All those guys, even though they did a lot of bad things, they were still high performance. And just like the kids equate reading books as taking action, they equate high performance with good. Some of the greatest high performance people that ever walked the planet are bad motherfuckers. Did ugly shit. So being a goody two-shoes, it doesn't necessarily equate to being a high performance person. And the difference between good and bad is a very thin line. And but getting back to the terrorists, but it's they panned down to Manchester, which I'll be in a couple of weeks, where they're still giving not awards, they're giving prayers and vigils to the kids that got killed there just 2-3 weeks ago. And but it's quite amazing. And I don't want to see London or the UK or any place turn into a gun state where there's a gun on every corner. But you don't see these things happen in Texas. You don't see them happen in fucking Oklahoma, where they can pack. I mean, it'd be like the Wild West, like the OK Corral, They better bring in a knife to a gunfight down there. So you don't see that happen, and and other places that are like that, you don't see that happen. And there's a big thing in the United States whether teachers should be able to pack weapons. Teachers, and there's a whole bunch of teachers that obviously want to, and then there's a whole bunch that don't. And surprisingly enough, kindergarten, second, and third grade teachers say they should. And it's the high school teachers that say that they shouldn't. But it's awful. But that's the state of the world now. That's the state of the world. From chaos comes order, and we are positioned, the kids that follow the QLA model, to take advantage of that chaos. But part of that chaos, extensions of that chaos, are these kids getting killed, which is tragic. Is tragic. Last night you saw film on fear, right? Which is what we talked about the first couple of days. Why people are kept from doing the things that not necessarily they should do, but they might want to do. What's the takeaway from the fear?
Can be controlled. Can be controlled.
Correct. Absolutely can be controlled. That scene where the Hispanic guy steps out in front of that couple, and then they show you he's thinking fight or flight, blah, 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 blah. And what is he going to do, etc. I find it amusing that they put a minority in the guy who's the aggressor. You got to put a black man in there, big guy like Walt, going to push all these white people around. And but see, my upbringing, that's not how I would have reacted. That's not how the kids that I was raised would have reacted. They would have done, they would have been aggressive. They would have turned it into them being the aggressor. What else about fear?
Fear can be overcome by doing what you fear multiple times.
Yeah, run into the breach, like I said, as Theodore Roosevelt did when he was had problems and he realized that he was, in charge of an army, and he felt that he should lead from the front, which he should, and he did, even though he had a bubble wrap, goody two shoes upbringing, and a lot of brave guys and gals had goody two shoes upbringing, and so they have more to overcome because they're not used to it. They didn't face fear or danger in the streets. I mean, when they interview guys, they gangbangers or the gang members in some areas of Detroit, Chicago, Los Angeles, parts of New York when Harlem was really a hard place to be in. I mean, it was dangerous to walk to school. It was dangerous to come back past dusk. And most of the kids watching this YouTube and most of the kids that come to this seminar have never experienced that. And I'm not saying you have to experience that, or I'm not even saying that you should experience that. But the kids that have experienced that, they're coming from a different social economic milieu. They're coming from a different background. So their decision-making process is a lot different. And I told you one of the guys that's come through here, his goal in life, he wants to be in a barroom fight, like in the movies, or a chair. First of all, when you hit somebody with a chair, they go down, they don't get up again. Not like in the movies, You hit somebody with a fucking bar stool, that's it. You go to the next guy. But in the movies, they jump up and, they kind of shake it off. And I've told you that my advice to him is don't be going into any barroom fights, otherwise it'll be your first, last, and only barroom fight, because he's likely to get himself killed. But as I said yesterday, there are kids, maybe some of you in this room, that have never been slapped, hit, by your parents or anybody else. And so your perspective of life is significantly different. And I'm not saying for the closet psychiatrist on YouTube here that you need to experience that, but certainly when you have experienced it, you're a different person. You're a different person. Anything else? Now, was fear the only one you saw last night? Greed. My specialty, my speciality, as they say in the UK. What about greed?
Greatest leverages in life are other people and other people.
I wonder where that came from. OPM, other people's money and other people. You can't get on that wall or be one of these guys or gals without other people and other people's money. As I told one of you last night during the private time, if you have money, I still don't like you to use it, but if you have money, QLA is a piece of motherfucking cake. I mean, it's a walkthrough. It's a walkthrough. It's like, it's a rehearsal that's for real, because there's virtually hardly any downsides. Because you bridge that credibility gap instantly with the dream team, etc. Plus, then you're assured almost 100% that you never have to rely on equity. You can always use debt because the equity piece is yours. Because that's where the dilution comes. When you take private equity, I mean, you go from 100% to whatever they decide that they want. And most management teams, i.e. like you're going to put together, will come away with, if you use private equity as opposed to just debt, as I tell you to, you may have between 10 and 30% left to split up amongst the board. as opposed to 100% split up amongst the board. So from a pure greed standpoint, you should avoid private equity. And the next thing, and perhaps the most important thing, is no private equity worth their salt will look at your team and say that you add any value with you, the QLA devotee, you add any value. Because they're not interested that you brought energy. They're not interested that you brought them all together. They're only looking at it in a utilitarian way. Well, fuck, I mean, he's got these other guys, and they probably won't keep all the board anyway, but 3 of these 6 guys on the board are good. They add value. They're going to make this thing better, quicker, faster for us, reduce our risk as private equity investors. So we'll take you and 3 board members out. We'll keep the 3 board members that are really operational people, and they'll move forward. And when it happens, and when I see in your weekly reports that I went to XYZ private equity, and I'll just put a big question mark next to it. I won't even say why. But when I put that big question mark in your report, I'm saying, what the fuck's wrong with you? Have you gone through all the other options of financing this fucking thing? But private equity is the easiest. It is the easiest. Because they'll tell you yes or no much quicker than a commercial bank or a pension fund on the debt side, because pension funds have both equity and debt sides. And I mean, you'll get through this quick, except the deal will get through quick without you. But rather than go through 25 presentations, you'll go to private equity, because the pain of giving the presentations is greater than the possibility, even though the old man, being me, says you're going to get tossed out on your butt. So you'll go to private equity anyway. And you're all sitting here intellectually saying, well, why would you do that? Jesus Christ. There's no fucking reason to do that. And the reason is because then you don't have to give 25 more presentations. And you'll engage in that self-sabotaging activity because you really don't want it anyway. And you've been a poser, a pretender to want to build generational wealth. Generational wealth. What about, okay, anything, what else about greed? Other than in the famous movie, Greed is Good, from the 87 movie Wall Street. Yeah, Walter. Pardon? You know, almost everybody in this room has heard that money's hard to get. And it's one of the great myths. It's like one of the people that came to the seminar in the 90s was a marketing person for the IRS, and she came up with the saying, in America, IRS is the taxing service, like the Inland Revenue in America. I'm from the IRS and I'm here to help. That was the thing, the advert on TV. And I mean, after you got done laughing about it, you know, because it's, everybody in America is afraid of the IRS. They don't want the IRS to be going through your books and looking at the way that you made money, etc. And but that's another myth, that I'm from the IRS and I'm here to help. But it did overcome a lot of emotional baggage that the people had. Okay, speaking of emotional baggage, YouTube, we'll see you later today. Thank you.